mental objects, for one who has already attained jhana in this tetrad. So if a clansman who is a beginner wants to develop this meditation subject, and through insight based on the fourth jhana produced in breathing, to reach arahantship together with the discriminations, he should first do all the work connected with the purification of virtue, etc., in the way already described, after which he should learn the meditation subject in 5 stages from a teacher of the kind already described. Section 187. Here are the 5 stages: learning, questioning, establishing, absorption, characteristic. Herein, learning is learning the meditation subject. Questioning is questioning about the meditation subject. Establishing is establishing the meditation subject. Absorption is the absorption of the meditation subject. Characteristic is the characteristic of the meditation subject. What is meant is that it is the ascertaining of the meditation subject's individual essence. Thus, this meditation subject has such a characteristic. Single quote. Section 188. Learning the meditation subject in the 5 stages in this way, he neither tires himself nor worries the teacher. So in giving this meditation subject consisting in mindfulness or breathing attention, he can live either with the teacher or elsewhere in an abode of the kind already described. Learning the meditation subject in the 5 stages, thus getting a little expounded at a time and taking a long time over reciting it, he should sever the minor impediments. After finishing the work connected with the meal and getting rid of any dizziness due to the meal, he should seat himself comfortably. Then, making sure he is not confused about even a single word of what he has learned from the teacher, he should cheer his mind by recollecting the special qualities of the 3 jewels. Section 189. Here are the stages in giving attention to it: counting, connection, touching, fixing, observing, turning away, purification, and looking back on these. Herein, counting is just counting. Connection is carrying on. Touching is the place touched by the breaths, fixing is absorption, observing is insight, turning away is the path, purification is fruition, looking back on these is reviewing. Section 190. 1. Herein, this clansman who is a beginner should first give attention to this meditation subject by counting. And when counting, he should not stop short of 5 or go beyond 10 or make any break in the series. By stopping short of 5, his thoughts get excited in the cramped space, like a herd of cattle shut in a cramped pen. By going beyond 10, his thoughts take the number rather than the breaths for their support. By making a break in the series, he wonders if the meditation subject has reached completion or not. So he should do his counting without those faults. Section 191. When counting, he should at first do it slowly, that is, late as a grain measurer does. For a grain measurer, having filled his measure, says 1, and empties it, and then refilling it, he goes on saying 1, 1, while removing any rubbish he may have noticed. And the same with 2, 2, and so on. So, taking the in-breath or the out-breath, whichever appears most plainly, he should begin with 1, 1, and count up to 10, 10, noting each as it occurs. Section 192. As he does his counting in this way, the in-breaths and out-breaths become evident to him as they enter in and issue out. Then he can leave off counting slowly late, like a grain measurer, and he can count quickly, that is, early as a cowherd does. For a skilled cowherd takes pebbles in his pocket and goes to the cow pen in the morning, whip in hand. Sitting on the bar of the gate prodding the cows in the back, he counts each one as it reaches the gate, saying 1, 2, dropping a pebble for each. And the cows of the herd, which have been spending the 3 watches of the night uncomfortably in the cramped space, come out quickly in parties, jostling each other as they escape. So he counts quickly early, 3, 4, 5, and so up to 10. In this way the in-breaths and out-breaths, which had already become evident to him while he counted them in the former way, now keep moving along quickly. Section 193. Then, knowing that they keep moving along quickly, not apprehending them either inside or outside the body, but apprehending them just as they reach the nostril door, he can do his counting quickly early. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For as long as the meditation subject is connected with counting, it is with the help of that very counting that the mind becomes unified. Just as a boat in a swift current is steadied with the help of a rudder. Section 194. When he counts quickly, the meditation subject becomes apparent to him as an uninterrupted process. Then, knowing that it is proceeding uninterruptedly, he can count quickly early in the way just described, not discerning the wind either inside or outside the body. For by bringing his consciousness inside along with the incoming breath, it seems as if it were buffeted by the wind inside, or filled with fat. By taking his consciousness outside along with the outgoing breath, it gets distracted by the multiplicity of objects outside. However, his development is successful when he fixes his mindfulness on the place touched by the breaths. That is why it was said above, he can count quickly early in the way just described, not discerning the wind either inside or outside. Single quote. Section 195. But how long is he to go on counting? Until, without counting, zero mindfulness remains settled on the in-breaths and out-breaths as its object. For counting is simply a device for setting mindfulness on the in-breaths and out-breaths as object by cutting off the external dissipation of applied thoughts. Section 196. 2. Having given attention to it in this way by counting, he should now do so by connection. Connection is the uninterrupted following of the in-breaths and out-breaths with mindfulness after counting has been given up. And that is not by following after the beginning, the middle and the end. Section 197. The navel is the beginning of the wind issuing out, the heart is its middle and the nose tip is its end. The nose tip is the beginning of the wind entering in, the heart is its middle and the navel is its end. And if he follows after that, his mind is distracted by disquiet and perturbation according as it is said. When he goes in with mindfulness after the beginning, middle, and end of the in-breath, his mind being distracted internally, both his body and his mind are disquieted and perturbed and shaky. When he goes out with mindfulness after the beginning, middle and end of the out-breath, his mind being distracted externally, both his body and his mind are disquieted and perturbed and shaky. Pi Psi 165. Section 3-4. So when he gives his attention to it by connection, he should do so not by the beginning, middle and end, but rather by touching and by fixing. Section 198. There is no attention to be given to it by touching separate from fixing as there is by counting separate from connection. But when he is counting the breaths in the place touched by each, he is giving attention to them by counting and touching. When he has given up counting and is connecting them by means of mindfulness in that same place and fixing consciousness by means of absorption, then he is said to be giving his attention to them by connection, touching and fixing. And the meaning of this may be understood through the similes of the man who cannot walk and the gatekeeper given in the commentaries, and through the simile of the saw given in the Pisambhida. Section 199. Here is the simile of the man who cannot walk. Just as a man unable to walk, who is rocking a swing for the amusement of his children and their mother, sits at the foot of the swing post and sees both ends and the middle of the swing plank successively coming and going. One yet does not move from his place in order to see both ends and the middle. So too, when a bhikkhu places himself with mindfulness, as it were, at the foot of the post for anchoring mindfulness and rocks the swing of the in-breaths and out-breaths, he sits down with mindfulness on the sign at that same place, and follows with mindfulness the beginning, middle and end of the in-breaths and out-breaths at the place touched by them as they come and go. Keeping his mind fixed there, he then sees them without moving from his place in order to see them. This is the simile of the man who cannot walk. Section 200. This is the simile of the gatekeeper. Just as a gatekeeper does not examine people inside and outside the town, asking, "Who are you? Where have you come from? Where are you going? What have you got in your hand?" Single quote, comma. For those people are not his concern. But he does examine each man as he arrives at the gate. So too, the incoming breaths that have gone inside and the outgoing breaths that have gone outside are not this bhikkhu's concern, but they are his concern each time they arrive at the nostril gate itself. Section 201. Then the simile of the saw should be understood from its beginning. For this is said, sign, in-breath, out-breath, are not object of a single consciousness. By one who knows not these three things development is not obtained. Sign, in-breath, out-breath, are not object of a single consciousness. By one who does know these three things development can be obtained. Single quote. Section 202. How is it that these three things are not the object of a single consciousness? That they are nevertheless not unknown, that the mind does not become distracted, that he manifests effort, carries out a task, and achieves an effect. Suppose there were a tree trunk placed on a level piece of ground, and a man cut it with a saw. The man's mindfulness is established by the saw's teeth where they touch the tree trunk, without his giving attention to the saw's teeth as they approach and recede, though they are not unknown to him as they do so. And he manifests effort, carries out a task, and achieves an effect. As the tree trunk placed on the level piece of ground, so the sign for the anchoring of mindfulness. As the saw's teeth, so the in-breaths and out-breaths. As the man's mindfulness, established by the saw's teeth where they touch the tree trunk, without his giving attention to the saw's teeth as they approach and recede, though they are not unknown to him as they do so. And so he manifests effort, carries out a task, and achieves an effect. 2 Sir 2. The bhikkhu sits, having established mindfulness at the nose tip or on the upper lip, without giving attention to the in-breaths and out-breaths as they approach and recede, though they are not unknown to him as they do so, and he manifests effort, carries out a task, and achieves an effect. Section 203. Effort. What is the effort? The body and the mind of one who is energetic become wieldy. This is the effort. What is the task? Imperfections come to be abandoned in one who is energetic, and his applied thoughts are stilled. This is the task. What is the effect? Fetters come to be abandoned in one who is energetic, and his inherent tendencies come to be done away with. This is the effect. So these three things are not the object of a single consciousness. And they are nevertheless not unknown, and the mind does not become distracted, and he manifests effort, carries out a task, and achieves an effect. Whose mindfulness of breathing in and out is perfect, well developed, and gradually brought to growth according as the Buddha taught. He illuminates the world, just like the full moon free from cloud. 55. This is the simile of the saw. But here it is precisely his not giving attention to the breaths as yet to come and already gone. 56 that should be understood as the purpose. Section 204. When someone gives his attention to this meditation subject, sometimes it is not long before the sign arises in him, and then the fixing, in other words, absorption adorned with the rest of the jhana factors, is achieved. Section 205. After someone has given his attention to counting, then just as when a body that is disturbed sits down on a bed or chair, the bed or chair sags down and creaks and the cover gets rumpled. But when a body that is not disturbed sits down, the bed or chair neither sags down nor creaks, the cover does not get rumpled, and it is as though filled with cotton wool. Why? Because a body that is not disturbed is light. So too, after he has given his attention to counting, when the bodily disturbance has been stilled by the gradual cessation of gross in-breaths and out-breaths, then both the body and the mind become light. The physical body is as though it were ready to leap up into the air. 3. Section 206. When his gross in-breaths and out-breaths have ceased, his consciousness occurs with the sign of the subtle in-breaths and out-breaths as its object. And when that has ceased, it goes on occurring with the successively subtler signs as its object. How? Section 207. Suppose a man stuck a bronze bell with a bigger iron bar and at once a loud sound arose. His consciousness would occur with the gross sound as its object. Then, when the gross sound had ceased, it would occur afterwards with the sign of the subtle sound as its object. And when that had ceased, it would go on occurring with the sign of the successively subtler sounds as its object. This is how it should be understood. And this is given in detail in the passage beginning, just as when a metal gong is struck. Section 208. For while other meditation subjects become clearer at each higher stage, this one does not. In fact, as he goes on developing it, it becomes more subtle for him at each higher stage, and it even comes to the point at which it is no longer manifest. However, when it becomes unmanifest in this way, the bhikkhu should not get up from his seat, shake out his leather mat and go away. What should be done? He should not get up with the idea, shall I ask for teacher? Or, is my meditation subject lost? For by going away, and so disturbing his posture, the meditation subject has to be started anew. So he should go on sitting as he was and temporarily substitute the place normally touched for the actual breaths as the object of contemplation. Section 209. These are the means for doing it. The bhikkhu should recognize the unmanifest state of the meditation subject and consider thus: where do these in-breaths and out-breaths exist? Where do they not? In whom do they exist? In whom not? Then, as he considers thus, he finds that they do not exist in one inside the mother's womb, or in those drowned in water, or likewise in unconscious beings, or in the dead, or in those attained to the fourth jhana, or in those born into a fine material or immaterial existence, or in those attained to cessation of perception and feeling. So he should apostrophize himself thus: you with all your wisdom are certainly not inside a mother's womb, or drowned in water, or in the unconscious existence, or dead, or attained to the fourth jhana, or born into the fine material or immaterial existence, or attained to cessation. Those in-breaths and out-breath are actually existent in you, only you are not able to discern them because your understanding is dull. Then, fixing his mind on the place normally touched by the breaths, he should proceed to give his attention to that. Section 210. These in-breaths and out-breaths occur striking the tip of the nose in a long-nosed man, and the upper lip in a short-nosed man. So he should fix the sign thus: this is the place where they strike. This was why the Blessed One said, Bhikkhus, I do not say of one who is